What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another race recap video. This time I'm on Deep Forest Raceway for the Nations Cup. This is a pretty good race and I'm pretty happy with my results, so I just wanted to look back over it and see how it all went down from my point of view. As always, if you find these videos entertaining, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. So we're starting off with my qualifying lap, and it didn't start off too great because I got home from work about 10 minutes before this race started. So I was going in pretty cold and I got stuck in a bit of traffic throughout the whole session. So I had to pick and choose what laps to throw away to buy myself enough space to run a good one. You can see here that on this first lap I got a penalty, which obviously isn't great since this lap is in the bin now, but I'd argue that the penalty was too strict, but it is what it is. But we're going to skip ahead here. We can see that Cyrus set an insane 27.3 right off the bat in his Secret Spice Aventador SV, so that didn't help my confidence very much. My first lap was only a 30.3 because of the penalty too. So we had a lot of time to pick up still before the time ran out for the session. Fortunately, I got it together on the next lap and set a much better time. I was really trying to chase those top two guys down since they're regularly at the front of these races, so I really wanted to get up there in the mix and give them a fight. You can see, even though we had to navigate traffic here, even going 3 wide on the straight before the hairpin, we still get our PB for the session on this lap. Probably could have gotten another 10th or 2 if it wasn't for that, but it wouldn't have gained me another position, so it doesn't really matter. You can see there I was still struggling through the hairpin because I'm on controller. I've since found somewhat of a workaround for that. It's not pretty at all, but if you're interested in how that solution works and how to minimize time losses in slow corners if you're using a controller, let me know about that in the comments. But yeah, we ended up getting a 27.8 that lap, pretty solid time for a qualifying session. If I knew about the solution I just mentioned, I could have had a 0.4 or so, but again, it doesn't matter. Cyrus's time was really quick, so he would have had pole no matter what. We didn't improve from here, nor did the other top 2 in the top 3, but we're P2 for the race, so I'm pretty happy with that. So here's the grid order, and you can see me being silly and giving Cyrus props where props are due in the chat. Again, very good time from him, and props for figuring out how to make the Aventador fast. He's also a very entertaining person to watch on live stream, so I've linked his Twitch in the description for anyone who wants to check out his content. Now we're here on the grid, and it's a similar start procedure to rally races. You have to stay on the brakes and not mess up your launch, or you'll get penalized. And when it's this competitive, that means your race is probably over before it even started. But thankfully, I got a pretty solid launch here, and even though I overshoot turn 1 a tiny bit, I managed to hold on to P2 here as we get started with the race. I did quite a bit of rear view mirror driving throughout this race because it was just so close for P2. Now Cyrus caught the grass a bit there, so I was able to get really close, but he keeps up his momentum through this second sector and gets an incredible exit through the tunnel. And that's about as close as I'd be for the entire race. We get an okay run through that middle sector, even though the straightaway exit could have been a bit better, but we're still hanging onto the back of the Lambo here. But as we get into the hairpin, you can see where the controller really starts to suffer versus the wheel. I'm turning full lock here as hard as I can. My ride height is adjusted properly so that this doesn't happen because of that, and I still just don't stand a chance. Cyrus pulls like a half a second on me through there, and Robbie Heck goes from half a second back to touching my bumper, just because I can't turn as well there as the wheel. If I knew about the trick to fixing that sooner, I would have been a lot better off, but I still think I did well despite this problem. You can see I'm really rear view mirror driving here, looking out for a potential dive bomb and seeing how I need to defend P2. Fortunately, I had just enough clearance to make the late brake into a double apex work, and I hold the position. This worked almost every lap, and that concrete patch on the inside really helped me get turned back in on the throttle despite being in a 4-wheel drive car. I think we have the first half of the track pretty solid since we match or edge out Cyrus through here. And we pulled half a second or so on Robbie each time, but again, we just lose it all in that hairpin. Granted, I didn't take it the best, but I didn't leave much more than a 10th or 2 on the table from what was possible on the controller. You can see that this time, Robbie misses the brakes a bit there and narrowly avoids contact, yet he's able to still gain over 3/10 on us despite it. He's slightly further back than last time, which is good for us, but I can't get comfortable because he's still really close. You can see our lap time is only about 3/10 off Cyrus, so that hairpin is really making all the difference. In turn 1, our strategy works out again, and we keep the position. We go back and forth with Cyrus in the first half of this lap, and we even gain a tenth or two this time. That's just not enough to close the gap with how short this race is. I was comfortable enough with the gap to P3 that I didn't expect to dive bomb, but yet again he's right on us at the end of the lap, so it really kept me on my toes. This is a recurring theme over the whole race, just like the turn 1 situation. Speaking of turn 1, I was really fearing an aggressive attempt to pass, and I ended up outbraking myself just a tiny bit here. And then I got greedy on throttle trying to hold the position, which only made things worse. I still held on to it, but Robbie is pretty much pushing me through this sector now, so I really have to be careful here and hold it together. Thankfully, we run a pretty tidy second sector and open the gap up a bit again. Now we're on lap 5, and it's more of the same. Cyrus is pulling away a few tenths a lap, and then Robbie and I are battling back and forth. You can see here, though, that he actually gets a penalty for half a second, probably the same place I got it during qualifying, so probably wasn't totally fair in his case either. But we'll take the breathing room and extend our gap to just over a second from here. That also ended up being our PB lap of the race, only a tenth and change off Cyrus, so that helps us out even more. You can see coming over this last sector split on lap 6 that I was almost 7 tenths down. I got the first half a bit wrong and got a bit too complacent without Robbie following so closely behind, and that could have cost me a position if it wasn't for the penalty. So I made sure to keep it a bit tidier to the end, which is a good thing, because Robbie ended up setting the fastest lap of the race the next time by, and got right back on my bumper for the final lap. He wasn't quite close enough to try and overtake, so I opted for the tight line through turn 1, and that seemed to pay off. Thankfully, we matched Cyrus again and beat Robbie a bit through the first half of the lap, so that bought me just enough breathing room to finish the race without too much fear of an overtake. But as we trudge through this hairpin one final time, Robbie gets another monster run through it and is less than 2/10 of a second behind me coming down the straight, and he's only a tenth behind when we cross the line. Thankfully, the slipstream didn't give him enough to get the position, and we hung on to P2 in the end. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with that performance given who I was racing against. The only real fault in the race was the hairpin trouble, and without that, I think I could have been in the fight for a win. But we'll take this result and learn from it. Also, huge shout out to Cyrus for the win, awesome job, and I had fun hanging out in your stream afterwards. Again, go check out his Twitch channel, Tyrannosaurus Rex, which I'll have linked in the description. That's all I've got for this time, guys, so let me know your thoughts in the comments and if you'd like to see more race reviews like these. To those struggling on controller, I hope this serves as some inspiration for success, because if I can do it, then you can too. But we're going to wrap it up here. Again, if you found this entertaining, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks.